All right. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Mr. James Carrington podcast. How y'all doing out there? Um, so this is not going to be a full length video, okay? This is more so going to be a redirectional video, all right? Because the subject matter that I am going to talk about, or the subject matter that I'm going to expound on, uh, I am not going to have that content on YouTube. Okay, so for those of you who know, I've already told you, if you look at the banner behind me, the very top link, okay, that is where my audio podcast is hosted. And for certain topics, that is where you will find me talking about them. There are certain topics that I will put on YouTube, and there are certain topics that I will put only in the audio podcast format. And that is for a number of reasons. One, we all know that YouTube does the whole policing thing, and if someone listens to some of your or watches video content of yours, and they're just being a hater, they can always report it to YouTube and have YouTube shut it down or take it down. I don't feel like dealing with all that. Okay, especially when it pertains to certain subject matters. Certain subject matters are a little too sensational or quote unquote controversial for them to be even discussed on YouTube. Okay, but I want enough people to hear what I have to say on certain particular subject matters, and the way to do that without any interference from the big guys, from the social media police, is to put them in the audio podcast format. So as far as the audio podcast goes, I am about to release episode 69, and the topic for episode 69, or the topic of episode 69, is going to be Africans who basically migrate to America and do everything that they can to distance themselves from African Americans, hereby creating a wedge, hereby creating some sort of divide or chasm between the two groups. And this is an issue that has been near and dear to my heart, and I have long sought to talk about it for quite some time now. And the reason why I feel now is the best time to talk about it is because I was listening to another great podcast by the gentleman, the great Boss Macnosis podcast. And for those of you who don't know the Boss Macnosis podcast, he's kind of like Boss Macnosis. I've been listening to him for about 13 years now. He's kind of like a quote unquote a bad boy version of Kevin Samuels. He's like a streets version of Kevin Samuels, like a hood version of Kevin Samuels. But he's been around way longer before Kevin, okay? And Boss Mac basically, he gives advice, game advice, okay? And what does my daughter want right now? What do you need?
I want more spaghetti.
You want more spaghetti? Okay, go downstairs. I'll come give you more spaghetti, okay? But anyway, so I've been listening to Boss Mac for a while now, almost 13 years now. And again, Boss Mac basically gives advice gives advice to men on how to navigate relationship waters with females. Okay, that is his main. That's the main theme of his show. So I've been listening to him for a while now. So I was listening to him last week, and he brought up a case which I didn't hear of when it first happened. Supposedly there was this Nigerian guy who got killed by his white girlfriend, and the white girlfriend is an OnlyFans model. Okay, and this happened down in Miami. The two of them lived together. They got into a domestic dispute, and she stabbed him to death. So this was my first time hearing about it. And apparently this thing has made waves on social media. As to why I'm just hearing about it, I have no idea. But of course, a lot of people have had a lot of things to say about it. Especially people, actually, yeah, people in both the African American community as well as in the African community, especially Nigerians, because the guy was Nigerian American. I've had a lot to say about it. But you see, the reactions and the comments and the commentary to this guy's demise, okay, and all the circumstances leading up to that, the way he lived his life, his character, some of the things he had to say, okay, they are all emblematic of the problems, or the problems that lead to the divide that exists between the African and the African American community. And like I said, this is something that, you know, I have known for a long time, and I have sought to have a discussion on for the longest time, because I think that when it comes to this topic of, you know, division between people of color, or black folks, or people of African descent in America, those of us who are in the middle have kind of let very ignorant voices on both sides take over the conversation, and they've hijacked the conversation, and they've shaped the conversation into a narrative that benefits them either politically or monetarily. Okay? A lot of people who have broached this subject matter have not been objective. They've been very subjective. They've interjected their own opinions and biases into this subject matter because it enables them to, again, either gain financially by stoking the flames of division. And that is not right. That is not right, because, you see, for someone like me who's an African immigrant, who's been living in the States for a while, who's had kids here in the States, who essentially, in my eyes, my kids are African Americans. Okay? They may not be quote unquote FBA or whatever, but to me, they are African Americans, and they are being raised as such. Okay? So, and I think that a lot of Africans find themselves in the same situation that I'm in. But for the most part, they're quiet because they don't want to get themselves involved in this conversation. They might talk about it in private circles and whatnot. But hey, you know, I have a platform, and I'm going to say whatever the fuck I feel that I need to say about it, because I think it is time. It is time to have a conversation, a dialogue about this thing. It is a very serious matter. To me, it really is an existential threat to both groups. Okay, both Africans and African Americans, or whatever you refer to yourself, FBA, non-FBA, you're in between, you're Nigerian, you're Ghanaian, you're an islander or whatever. It is time for those of us who are a little bit enlightened and a little bit, or who still embrace the idea of panafricanism, who still embrace the idea that Africans or people of African descent, no matter where they find themselves, no matter where they were born, no matter where they were raised, can still work together and become one group, okay? If we're always complaining about, us living under a system of white supremacy, then the only way to unshackle ourselves or unburden ourselves or get the heel of white supremacy off our backs is to work together. There is no other way around it. There is strength in numbers, but we have to come together. Those of us who agree on basic commonalities have to come together and figure out a way. Or first of all, we have to come together, since we find common ground. Talk about this thing. Be very objective about it. Try not to interject our personal biases into it, and basically, come up with solutions that can help stem this tide of division that's continuing to escalate between both groups. So, for episode 69, again on my audio podcast, this is the subject matter that I am going to be talking about. Okay, and it's going to be an episode that is heavily critical of Africans and their attitudes when they come to America and they adopt this mindset of we're going to do everything in our capacity to distance ourselves from African Americans. You understand? So, yes, baby girl, I'm coming, okay? Give me one more minute, all right? See why I gotta buy my own island so I can fly out there when I want to do my own podcast and not be bothered by the kids. But anyway, so if you want to hear what I have to say about this subject, again, look to the very top of the screen. There is a link there in red. I suggest you go to that website, okay? You subscribe to the show, and you can subscribe to the show on Facebook, on YouTube. And even if you don't feel like subscribing to the show, but when you're done listening to what I have to say, you have comments, and you have suggestions, and you have criticisms. You want to critique what I said. Well, there's a way for you to reach me, and that is that number that you see behind me right there. That is a WhatsApp number, 14845477572. You can just send me a text. Say, you know what? I think you made some great talking points, but I think this is that and this is that, and you're wrong about this or you're right about that. Just let me know, and I will do. Obviously, this will not be a one episode thing. It'll be probably 2 or 3 episodes. Okay, so but the only way for you to be able to listen to what I have to say is by subscribing to the show. You can subscribe on Apple, iTunes, or Google Podcasts, because whenever I upload the show onto Simplecast, they get shout out to Apple and Google as well. So let's do it. And the show will be out. The episode will be out in about 2 days. So keep an eye out for it. And I look forward to getting some feedback. I think this will be a great conversation piece, and between both Africans and African Americans, and anybody else that feels like they want to, interject their opinions, or have anything to say about this. It is a subject that is long overdue in being discussed. Okay, so until I hear from you guys again, or until you hear from me again, this is your boy, Mr. James Carrington, signing off. And remember to be kind to your fellow man and don't do what I wouldn't do.